We have a choice. We always have a choice. So we can choose to be happy in this moment, or we can choose to be sad and honor either one of those emotions. But what are you going to do about it afterwards, right? So like you can sit there and sulk in your pity pot, but then what?
Often the emotions it's happening in the body, it's happening in the DNA, it's in the genes, it's in the physical body. It affects the mind, and then the mind can go in some crazy loops of crazy spiral of darkness. But none of that is true.
It's not necessarily the moon, it is just bringing out what needs to be recognized, looked at, loved, and released. So, Scorpio energy doesn't necessarily bring anxiety. It brings what's underneath that for it to be transformed.
Anytime that you have these things start to come up and these emotions come up, or things in your head coming up, it's always a time for reflection, and it doesn't matter what time it is. And yes, it might be, okay, there's more intense energies, there's more anxiety coming up, but use it as an invitation to go deeper in yourself.
It's really about embodying the truth of who you are. Like really feeling it in the body, really coming back into the body. It's an expression of your truth. So it is moving through the emotions. It is, like, what am I feeling today? And then really allow that to move through you. What am I feeling in the moment?
Hey everyone, it's Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. A quick message before we dive into today's discussion. You may have been watching our videos, but have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button. So if you have gained value from our conversations, from our channel, it would be so appreciated for us if you would hit that subscribe button below right now and even give us a like. What that means is not only does it allow us to grow our subscriber base, but it also allows us to bring in even more guests for you to listen to. And you will be one of the first ones to be notified. So please hit that subscribe button and let's get started on today's wonderful panel discussion.
Welcome to another panel discussion with some amazing ladies. I am really looking forward to having these conversations. I've been talking a lot about the Scorpio energy that we've moved into. So today we're going to be talking about shadows and silver linings with the Scorpio season energy of supporting some deep emotional healing. So I am Gigadomi Gunkwe, which means talking feather woman, which is my spirit name. I'm also known as Rollie ALLAIRE. And I am the host of this beautiful Sacred You discussion tonight that we have happening. And yeah, so we'll just start with some introductions. So Skye, you're to my left. So I'm going to start with you.
Nice, because you're to my right. Hello, everyone. My name is Skye, and I am a shadow work coach, mentor, and specialist. So I specialize in all the things, the third draw down, which you do not wish to open. And I'm here to hold the light to those things and act as your guide as you walk through the darkness and into your own light through self-discovery. I'm very much looking forward to this panel. Anything shadows and silver linings, I am all here for.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Skye. And Catherine, what about you?
Hello. So I am a spiritual leadership coach, an intuitive healer, podcaster, author, and a speaker. And I help people find what they don't know and lead them to then knowing what that is, so that forming a bridge between the unknown and the known, so that they can reclaim who they truly are in this world and live a life that is aligned with them. And as Skye said, working with your shadows is so important, because so often we run away from those parts of ourselves and we feel that everything's love and light, but really love is embracing all those aspects, as well as the darkness, as well as the light. So excited for this panel.
Beautiful. Thanks, Catherine. And Tamar? Oh, you're on mute.
There we go.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one who does that.
Thank you for letting me know. My name is Tamar GAIL. I am a feminine embodiment guide, mentor, You can modern day mystic, oracle, and also a keeper of the feminine mysteries. And what I do is I've created the feminine codes, and I help women really awaken to the sacred portals of remembrance, awaken to the ancient wisdom that's encoded throughout their wombs and their bodies and their voices. And a lot of that is rooted in mystical lineages, it's rooted in the earth. And it's really just about creating these transformational spaces where the unseen becomes felt and truly embodied, and the sacredness is remembered. So I am a Scorpio. This is my favorite season. I am very well familiar with the death and rebirth processes that the Scorpio season transitions us to and through. And I'm just really happy to be here and speaking about this. So thank you.
Thank you. And Anick?
Unmuted. Hello, everyone. Such a joy to be with you this morning. And I, like Tamar, I'm also a Scorpio and a badass. That goes together, and a very sensitive soul as well. I am a holistic business mentor. I am a voice alchemist. I do sound and voice healing. I offer a powerful container for women with their mission, purpose, business. And I'm an international best-selling author. I am a TEDx speaker, and I am me, just me. It's enough. And so I am here on this planet to help you own your creative power, to embody your highest lucrative joy, and to be a voice alchemist. And yeah, so that's my passion, that's my truth, and I'm passionate about the truth. And I'm excited about this conversation on Scorpio this morning, emotions and dig deep. Yeah, I love it. I grew up with a mother who was a teacher, and we had heaps of books at home on astrology, so I'm a bit of a connoisseur in the subject. And I'm excited to learn from all of you as well. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. I love the fact that we've got some Scorpio energy in here, because you guys actually get to help us relate a little bit more for those of us who are not in that energy. We all have that energy within us as we move through all of the zodiac signs through the year as well as through the month. And so I work with women with anxiety using moon medicine, which incorporates the astrological impacts, the lunar energies, as well as so many other holistic things such as crystals and essential oils and Reiki energy and other healing modalities. And yeah, so I love being able to have a combination of all these things together that I get to bring in to that, which leads into these juicy conversations, as Anick would say, of having these interesting conversations of how we move through and navigate through these energies of, and I can't remember if it was Skye or Catherine, we tend to shy away and run away from some of these energies, right? It's, oh no, I don't want to talk about this. Let's just stuff it, right? But this is a perfect time of the year for us to be moving through this energy. So whether you are in the Northern Hemisphere, such as and I think Tamar and Skye, no, you're in Australia, right? Yeah, and then so you guys are into spring and moving into that energy, but it's interesting how regardless of where we are on one side of the world or not, is that these energies still impact us, right? So they impact us differently based on our season, but it still brings everything together as we move through. So the first question that I have is, how does Scorpio's season intense energy affect anxiety patterns, and what approaches have you found to be most supportive during these emotional times? Anick, let's start with you.
Okay.
She's, oh no.
That's a big
Do you
ask.
want me to repeat it? So it's how
Breaking
does Scorpio
the ice is a big ask. Ah, yeah,
So
the question
yeah.
again. Yeah.
So the question is about this season and how intense that this Scorpio season is. And given that you actually live it 24/7, but particularly at this time, like how do you actually help with dealing with the patterns of anxiety and so this is like Scorpio season is emotional. Like we're into this pretty heavy duty energy that we're actually moving in. So what approaches have you found that actually have helped in this energy?
Yeah, it's a great question. As it's raining here in Sydney, Australia this morning, a dark Scorpio. I suppose it's like what I use in having a beautiful sexual body and five senses. Often the emotions are, it's happening in the body, it's happening in the DNA, it's in the genes, it's in the physical body. It affects the mind, and then the mind can go in some crazy loops of crazy spiral of darkness and fears and limiting beliefs. But none of that is true. None of that is true. So for me, breath and voice is my go-to. That's where it's free. You were born with it. As long as you're alive, you can breathe and you can sound. Hi, ya, 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 ho, ho, ha, ho, ho, ho. And I found these releases of conscious breathing and releasing sounds the most powerful thing to powerful modalities, rather, to create some space and get back into center. And there's another very powerful tool that we all have is the freedom of choice. So when I catch myself, because I'm my first best client, okay, you know what I mean? I'm my first best client. People feel, what you preach. Are you embodying? Are you living it? We can be a good preacher, but are we actually walking the talk, embodying the talk fully? So the freedom of choice we have. So making a choice, a decision, cutting off all the bullshit. Making a decision, it's not just mental. Yes, it's mental. Of course, you make a conscious decision and tuning into your beautiful, big, booming, sacred heart that knows everything you love, everything you need. Your heart knows. So making the decision, if you catch yourself in a loop of drama or negative speaking, because you make that decision that you're not letting that running the show, that you're going to go get a green juice. You're going to do a little action that is different, because you're going to take an action. You got to shift. You got to make a decision and take an action. Make a decision, take an action. Make a decision, take an action. What I wanted to say is make a choice, go in the heart knows, the intuition knows. I had something really powerful I wanted to say, just came. Zoo. Oh my God. It came. Zoo, 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 zoo.
Yeah.
And voice tapping, the modality I've created, voice and tapping together. If you,
Beautiful.
yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I got it. An emotion, it's like an emotion is 90 seconds only. So
Yep.
allowing the rage, allowing the grief, allowing the joy, allowing the orgasm, allowing the 90-second emotion to move through, punching bag, boom, it's okay. And then it's the story we start to attach around that emotion or what just happened. So yeah, so that's that. I'll stop here. I'm on a
So
roll. I'm on a roll, Rollie now.
so this is our like French person from Canada, from now in Australia, but in our French Canadian from Montreal, Quebec. Skye, what about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, most definitely. And much like Anick in WA, it is also like dark and raining here, which is very interesting. Always go with the beautiful Scorpio energy, because it was like hot and sunny yesterday, and now it's dark, cold, and rainy today. But one thing, yeah, I really like share with anyone that I speak to, my clients and all that sort of stuff, is the beautiful reframe, because I know a lot of people dive into the moon or the astrology energies and they're like, oh, the moon, that's why I'm crazy today. And that beautiful reframe of, no, it's not necessarily the moon. It is just bringing out what needs to be recognized, looked at, loved, and released. Scorpio energy doesn't necessarily bring anxiety. It brings what's underneath that for it to be transformed. And as Anick said, allowing what comes up to come up so you can be able to release it, and much agreeing doing things like breath work, journaling, thought records, so you can probe into what may be the underlying belief, wound, whatever label you want to put onto it, so you can actually find the truth that is in here and now, rather than the anxiety of thinking of the past or those wounds that are popping up for you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Skye. So, Catherine, what about you?
Yeah, I feel that so often we have all these heightened energies, just like Skye said, and we go, oh, it's because of the moon or it's because of what's happening. But in the end, any time that you have these things start to come up and these emotions come up or things in your head coming up, it's always a time for reflection, but it doesn't matter what time it is. And I remember I said to my coach, because he does astrology, and I said, all this crap's happening in my life right now. What's going on? He goes, there's always crap happening astrologically. You just have to actually embrace it and deal with it. And yes, it might be, okay, there's more intense energies, there's more anxiety coming up. But exactly like Skye said, you use it as an invitation to go deeper in yourself and be curious and be compassionate with yourself and have that compassionate self-inquiry. And this is what I encourage my clients to do as well, to go deeper, is to, instead of going, why is this happening to me? You can just change it to, why is it happening for me? And start to be curious about that. And I find automatic writings really powerful for myself and guiding people through that, because when you just ask that question, it's like, why am I so angry, or why am I so anxious? And you let that pen flow, you're amazed at how deep like some of those levels get, and how like when you keep probing and you're like, oh, I had no idea that's why I felt that way. And thank you for that reflection, especially with Scorpio highlighting all those anxieties and highlighting and bringing up all those shadows. It just allows you to go deeper in and use the energy to support you to do that, rather than resist the energy and run and hide, like you said, shove it down into a closet and be like, I'm not dealing with that shadow right now, and slamming the door. It's when you do that that it becomes a bigger issue, because you're not embracing all parts of yourself and you're not showing yourself that compassion, but you're also not loving all parts of you, because we have all these sides. Life's polarity. You can't expect everything to be beautiful all the time. You have to have those ups and downs and embrace that and work through that at the same time. So in summary, what I do with my clients is help them, guide them back out of whatever black hole they've guided themselves into, but also encourage them to journal and to ask questions, and also to do things for themselves to honor who they are. And I'm not talking about bubble baths and that sort of thing. It's actually, no, what do I want to do and invest into myself to actually step forward and allow myself to transform out of this, so that I don't stay in this shadow period that I'm in.
And one of the things that I really like that you said, Catherine, is the hole that they guided themselves into, right? We guide ourselves into, and that goes back to what Anick was saying about the free will, and we have a choice. We always have a choice. So we can choose to be happy in this moment, or we can choose to be sad and honor either one of those emotions. But what are you going to do about it afterwards, right? So like, you can sit there and sulk in your pity pot, but then what? So then what? So Tamar, I purposely left you last simply because of so I did that intentionally, because you are that embodiment coach, right? So like, you do that embodiment, and this is just so fitting with exactly what it is. Not that it's not fitting with anything that the rest of us do, but it's just in that whole respect of conversation of emotions. Do you want to share a little bit about, maybe start with, what is embodiment for people who are listening and they're like, what is that?
Yeah, embodiment is a word that's really, it's used a lot, but it's really about embodying the truth of who you are, like really feeling it in the body, really coming back into the body, and it's an expression of your truth. So it is moving through the emotions. It is, what am I feeling today? and then really allow that to move through you. What am I feeling in the moment? Embodiment, as I said, it's all about really just being embodied in yourself, like really coming from this place of true authenticity and and self-love. And that looks like so many different things for us. I believe that the most impactful tools that I've seen used for my clients through me, through my embodiment practice, is womb work, because you're going deep. It's all about the psyche, as many of these women have said. It's all about traveling within and the descent into what can be seen as the underworld and the shamanic realms, but the descent into our soul, the finding the gifts within the soul through the descent. And so many times we look above, we look up to the ascent, but we're missing the connection with the deepest, most intimate parts of ourself. So I'm not sure if that makes sense to everyone, but I'm sure you ladies it does. And so whenever we go through these patterns of anxiety, the Scorpio season does bring it up. I'm a Scorpio, it brings it up for me. And I realized a couple years ago how intense this season actually is, even for me, who goes through this process time and time again. But it is, and it's all about you stepping more into your power. So what, like Catherine said, like it's finding the gift in that, is finding what is it that I'm getting out of this? And that's something that I learned as a teenager. It's to look past what is happening now and look for the gold in the alchemy, the alchemical process of what is actually happening to you on this other level. Where is the gold? And then moving through this, but focusing also on that. And that's always helped me transform so much faster, is that finding the gold in it. Somatically, I move women through somatic practices, and I teach a form of embodied yoga that's specifically created for women, but it helps them really come into their bodies, really descend into their bodies, somatically release whatever is they're moving through, and then process that through a whole nother level that they don't really know. We need to know what's going on in their lives, or what's being moved through, what's being processed, but it's actually being processed through their body and releasing through their body. And then the womb work is, like I said, it's another aspect of my work that I use with women, because it's the descent into the body. It's really moving through the trauma that we hold inside the body and really finding our power there. And those are the tools that I see really work with my clients. Am I missing anything? I really feel like it's the psyche. I really feel like it's the journey within and connecting with your own soul and finding those gifts within. And that's just something that a lot of people hide from, but it's one of the most valuable tools that we can, I guess, develop a practice for.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. And that leads us right into the next question about that whole, and not just for our own clients, but for ourselves as well, but that whole resistance to that transformation, right? So that transformational period that we actually go through, and we do this monthly, we do it annually. There's so many things and so many times that this happens. But it leads right into that whole conversation about the transformation and the resistance. And so, Skye, I'm going to open it up to you about being able to tap into that resistance, and what do you do, and how do you help people or yourself move through that oh no, please don't do this to me.
Yeah, the quick runaway. Yeah, definitely. And I find going through clients, and even myself, when we resist that or get into our head rather than, as Tamar said, into our body, is that beautiful reminder that anything that we say we're not this or we're not that, we automatically negate it, therefore putting it into the shadow, and you're suppressing then a whole ass part of yourself. And by doing so, you actually miss out on the beautiful gifts that these aspects that you have rejected come through. So it is that beautiful clarity between light and dark. Anything that is perceived as a negative, there is always a silver lining. There is always a light to it. And anything that is perceived as really positive, there's always like a slightly darker aspect to it. and really understanding that having that beautiful wholeness of self is being able to look into those more darker that we resist, those real big transformational as we go through the uncomfortable feelings and the uncomfortable parts of ourselves into that beautiful transformation of light, being able to integrate all of those back into self rather than going, oh no. So yeah, it's that beautiful, and I think that's really how I guide people through it, is it's just we are all things and all things are us. And what shows up in someone else is your mirror, and what shows up within yourself is asking to be looked at and loved and transformed through.
Beautiful. Thank you, Skye. What about you, Catherine?
There we go. I'm like hitting the bit button. It's not working. It's definitely, like Skye said, it's about letting not to run away, but also accepting that is a part of you. It's just, I remember when I was doing some past life work, like really deep soul work, and I came across this version of myself, and for all intensive purposes, she was on a vendetta, and really on a vendetta against men. And it was really interesting to see that aspect and realizing that I had those parts in me too, because that's what made me stronger with dealing with and working in allied health for so many years, which had working with like pediatricians, and most of them were male, and having to push back so much on that and stand up for the truth. But if I'd run away from that aspect of myself, despite it being quite horrifying to see it play out, because I see it like a movie, but seeing it play out that way and not embrace that. And really what she needed was, like, it sounds so it's typical, but she actually just needed someone to tell that she was loved just as she was, not needing to change or change any aspect of that. By embracing that part of me, I became stronger in myself, and even realizing that, okay, I'm really triggered by these things, and I've just learned to run towards the triggers, which sounds really weird because I have this philosophy. I don't want to do this crap again, and I don't want to have to face all these shadows and work through all this stuff again and again. This is where embracing that change is really important, because otherwise it's going to come up again for you the next life, or it's going to come back in another cycle. And even for me at the moment, I realized the other week I was going through this 7-year cycle with this aspect of my life. And when I was like, oh, what do I want to do differently this time so I don't have to go through this cycle again or go through this process again? That can be really powerful. And that's something I help my clients see as well, because sometimes it's really hard to see it when you're on the inside. Sometimes you need someone else to reflect it back to you to help you go, oh, okay, this isn't a bad thing. This is just an aspect of what's happening. And Skye said, even the best things that seem too good to be true can be, there's something in there that you need to learn from that. And it's always when you can take a lesson from the blessing or the unforgivable and learn to forgive the unforgivable and embrace that part, that you can have these big soul evolutions and transformations. And the more you resist, the longer it will take. The more you dive into it, the quicker you tend to, usually it's pain. Don't get me wrong, it's not any less painful, but it can be quicker rather than dragging it out for 7 years. So dive in, and the universe only gives you what you can handle. It never gives you too much. And even I had a client recently who kept saying, it's too much, it's too much, it's too much. So the universe kept giving her more and kept giving her more. And I said to her, you have to stop saying that. She ended up breaking her hip and needed a hip replacement. And I said, now does it feel? She's, oh, I need to stop saying it's too much. And I was like, yeah, you do, because you keep pulling this into your circle. So, watch your words as well, and find the blessing and the gratitude and embrace the darkness, because it is just part of you, and you can find a blessing in what that needs to be too.
Beautiful. Thanks, Catherine. So, Anick, I have a little bit of a different question for you. So, the question that I have for you is, can you share an example of how you've seen profound healing emerging from working with rather than against intense emotional periods? I got a heavy one for you.
Yeah, you're too kind. So you're jumping on question 4. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Can you share an example of how you've seen profound healing emerge from working with rather than against intense emotional period? That's what Catherine was sharing with her client who's calling in heaviness. I've just experienced myself in my personal life. It's not, it's probably, yeah, it's not a sales pitch here. It's the humble, vulnerable, courageous share. But how yeah, it's been intense, rather intense. 2025 has been really full on for me, challenging. Anyways, I was living in a dream home for me. That the courage it took me to move to a foreign country, speaking in a second language. But I followed my intuition and I followed my truth, which was to live on the beach in a warm tropical country. Being Canadian, like I grew up in the snow. Anyways, I lived it. I live now. I live in my bikini, not today, but yeah. Uh, Long story short, I've been living in a home that I absolutely loved and adored, by the sea. Everything I wanted, avocado trees all around, tropical flowers, next to the beautiful rock pool in the ocean, in a very posh suburb. I've been able to afford it. It's just an amazing price, like an amazing deal. I've lived there for 15 years, and I've been asked this year to move out of my house for revamping, renovating, and redoing the place, which was good, pretty good. Anyway, massive bedrooms, like amazing light, peaceful, everything on my list. It was really good. I felt very safe. Of course, it gave me a place to a nest, to give birth, to grow my soul's work, to when you feel safe, you blossom, you create. When you don't feel safe, you're wobbly. When your foundation, your root chakra is wobbly, forget it. So it's been such a blessing. And so obviously I drive with my eyes closed to everywhere. My best friends lives around my conscious events, everything, my dentist, my mechanic, name it. There's a sense of safety, of knowing everything's rolling. Anyway, as I'm a spiritual person, I say, okay, the universe wants to guide me to something even better. I've outgrown the energy of this place. You've got to shift your perspective. Otherwise, you're in victim consciousness. But for Anick, it's easy to go to victim consciousness. For my human, for my badass, for the truth of who I am, it's not. It's easy to take people on and take myself on in higher perspective, in higher self. And then this weekend, I went to offer a workshop at the Festival of Joy. I haven't found a home yet, so I've been renting rooms in different places. I've been like traveling in my own city. So that's really fun. That's really, I'm curious. I love it. But at the same time, I hate it as well with a passion, because it's not my home. I don't have my thing. It's not my happy place. And over the weekend, I went to the Festival of Joy in the Blue Mountains, and I was offering a quantum voice activation workshop. It was epic. Saturday night, I went to dinner with my French-Canadian girlfriend who lives in the mountain, and I got busted by the cop because I had a light on my car that was not working. And then he found out that my car was not registered. And because in this chaos, the 18th of September, I meant to register my car, but in the chaos that I've been on, like moving is very stressful, and looking for places and going from one place to the other, it just slipped my conscious awareness. And it cost me a fortune that bloody weekend. Anyway, like bringing the shadows in the deep emotions, they all came. I have a struggle with authority. And so it all came. So I use my own tools day in, day out. That's what I've been required to really do. Tamar, she's an embodiment coach. Like I've been really required to completely be in a space of, yes, rage, unfair, like the wounding of it's unfair, injustice, the big wounding of injustice that came up because some of my girlfriends, their parents bought them like a mansion, a castle of millions of dollars, and a car, and this and that. And some people have it really easy in this lifetime, and some others, they have to paddle a bit more. So what do you do? In the same story, you make a decision. You take an action. You breathe. You do your voice tapping on yourself. You reach out for help. It's an example I can give you. Shit will happen even though you're a spiritual badass, even though you give your heart to the table, you give so much. It's a journey. It's a journey. Stuff will happen. How can you make this experience as gentle and loving to your inner child, for your inner child to make her feel safe in this chaos? How can you make her feel loved and safe amongst the shit? So I use my own personal experience. Everyone's silent. Yeah, yaha. But really, that's what it is. How can I make my little one, my little human, feel safe and loved in this moment? In this transition. Obviously, I'm in transition. I'm going to the next level of my soul's work, of my exquisite, delicious human life, playful. I'm going to the next level. It's chaotic. It's the transition is not comfortable. Growth, expansion is not comfortable.
Nope. And especially when it's the unknown, right? And
Yeah,
and I
yes.
knew that you would have an amazing example. I didn't realize how amazing the example would be, but it's exactly where like people have like this pattern and these things of what it is that they have going on, of what's happening in their life, and we manage and we get through, and life might look rosy on the other side, but is it really? Right? Yeah. So
Yeah, with tremendous amount of compassion, really self-compassion. It's not that it doesn't mean because we've written the book that we've been on a stage speaking, the global speaker in front of thousands of people, and because we hold beautiful sacred space, all of us, we're exquisite, delicious women with a heart of gold, with an expanded consciousness. We're amazing. We're freaking amazing leaders. Yet, often our ancestral lineage, they left us beautiful little pieces to untangle, and we don't need to be perfect. We need to be compassionate, and we need to come back to truth as quick as we can, by holding space, by being together, having this conversation, by making decisions and going to spaces, taking actions, going to spaces that are nurturing, nourishing, and keep moving, you know what I mean? Keep moving, not denial. I'm not saying to denial, never denial. It's not going to serve, it's going to come back. Never denial. Hold her in your arms, hold her with compassion. Feel it, move it, make the next decision to go towards what your heart truly desires, and it will work out. I promise.
thanks, Anick. So what about you, Tamar?
The experience or example of how I've seen the profound healing emerge through this.
Yep.
Yeah, so I will use my own story as well. Throughout every time that I have seen myself go through these journeys of the shadow, I have always, and it's just probably since my 20s, mid 20s, I have always gone and left my comfort zone. I have put myself out there. I've traveled the world. I've lived on different places. And it's always been for what I knew of moving through this phase, this transitional period, and almost like a metamorphosis, really transforming. But the older I've gotten, the more I've understood it. And every time that's happened, I've been to these places collecting the different pieces of my soul, really soul work, finding the gifts, connecting with the land, really being out there in solitude and silence a lot of the times, even through the traveling and meeting people. That's really what has called me to go to these different lands. Hawaii, I was I worked for a little bit, but then I was hiking and camping and surfing, and it was nature. It was getting back into nature that really connected me with my soul, but also the silence and the solitude. And so what that did is it's transformed me because it's helped me reintegrate the pieces that I lost, the pieces of my soul that have been fractured through different things in my life. And trauma can look like many different things. It could be something small, but it's how we move through that, right? It's how our inner child or that sees that moment that we've gone through. And so reintegrating those pieces, calling back home those pieces of myself that I had that had split off, and really becoming whole. And so the transition through all of those times, and it can't really say that it's just one, but I would say one of those, the first one that ever took me off onto this path, was my divorce, my first divorce when I was 25. I got married super young, wasn't the right thing. It's really quite not healthy. And I left at 25. And that is really what set me on this path of, when something happens, where is my soul calling me to, that I can go and reintegrate pieces of myself. And you don't have to travel. You don't have to do that. That is just a soul. It's something for me that I needed. It's something written in me, that gypsy spirit that I needed to do. But it's really integrated myself. It's brought me this work that I do in the world. It's helped me find my gifts, as Anick said, my soul gifts, and how I can serve humanity. And I would say that is probably the most profound healing that I have seen come from doing this deep work.
Thanks, Tamar. Skye, what about you?
Share an example of seeing profound healing emerge from working with rather than against intense periods. I'm actually going to share something that sort of happened last week. This was really cool. And I'll share sort of something about myself and then something that I had a really cool discussion with. Those of you that have been following along on my Facebook at home or whatever else know that I've been going through premature menopause, as well as some other health conditions that have been really calling me to come back to self. And I remember I was in the doctor's surgery on Friday with my women's health specialist as we're doing my menopause checkup and seeing how I'm like traveling along and all of those fun things. And just before I finished, she was like, I'm just going to check your blood pressure. I was like, yeah, no worries. And found out that my blood pressure was actually really quite low. And I was like, that explains why I feel like trash right now. And I'm like getting really curious. Is this something to do with menopause, or is it something to do with the connective tissue disorder that I have? And she was like, no, you're actually showing signs and symptoms of another condition. And I was like, okay, yeah, no worries. And walked out. And previously, going through the last 18 months of every time I walked into the doctor's surgery, I walked out with more pieces of paper for tests and scans because things were showing up. And it was really getting me down. I was just like, oh, another thing, come on, universe, give me a break type. And I walked out and I was really at peace of going, oh, somewhere along my line decided that I was far too fucking powerful and had to smite my ass. And it was that really deep knowing that I've just been called to come back to myself. And even a friend of mine, when I told her, she was just like, oh, another thing to add to your brokenness. And I was just like, not broken. It's just my nervous system is screaming at me. And you know what? I'm going to sit down and listen, because that's where the transformation happens. And so that, rather than resisting all of these things that are coming up for me, I'm like, okay, we're just going to go through and find out what is actually going on right now. And I had a really similar situation. So muggle job, so soul purpose is all the coaching and the shadow work that I do. My muggle job is 2 days a week. I work in the salon. Our first career was a hairstylist, and I ended up having this beautiful woman sit in my chair, and we were all having this really cool chat, similar sort of journeys over the past 18 months. And in the end, she reached out and wanted to have a chat with me further. And she said, after we had a chat, she messaged me afterwards. She was just like, I'm just naturally buzzing after the chat that we've had. I'm so glad that I come across your path, because I've been wanting to dive into these things rather than resist them. And I'm really looking forward to actually learning more about myself and really reversing these conditions that I have, because I know that they're trying to tell me something and I'm really ready to listen. So it's those, a lot of those real profound transformations happen when you surrender. Before anything else starts and that reflection starts and that deep dive starts and everything like that, it is really in that moment of surrendering to that beautiful discovery period, because that allows everything in your side, your nervous system, everything just to let go. And you're not looking at it with any sort of negative judgment or anything like that. You're looking at it with that beautiful childlike curiosity of, what can I learn? How can I integrate this? How are we going to bring those gifts out?
And I love that. And it really is about that surrendering and just allowing it. And Tamar talked a lot about that as well. And Nick's talked about that as well. It's about being able to like just allowing it to come to the surface and allowing us to being able to accept it so that it can release. So Catherine, what about you?
I'm like, which thing do I talk about? The biggest example I've had in my life is when I had to let go of my company that I built from the ground up. It was actually part of my dark night of the soul, round 1, 2, and 3, I guess. And my background is a speech language pathologist, so working at Allied Health. And it was really hard to find staff that are good staff, but also that are like compatible with children and that get along. And I was struggling from burnout and all these things and really getting messages I needed to pull back and refocus what I was doing. And my husband was saying for months that I needed to sell the business, but I couldn't see another way to earn income. And I was like, no, I'll keep pulling back and then I'll just manage it and let the money come in that way. However, that was not what I needed to do. So in the space of a week, I had 3 staff resign. And so at this point, I actually broke down and I was in a ball on the floor and I was devastated because I knew I had to go through all this and change my life. But at the same time, I wasn't ready to let go of my baby, my company that I built from the ground up. And so once I finally got off the floor, a month later, in the space of a week, I had another 3 staff resign and I hadn't replaced the first ones. And I was pissed. I was so angry. I went out on this rock I meditate and I screamed at the universe. I'm like, what is this about? You want me to do this other work and yet there's no income and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I absolutely ripped into them. And then unfortunately, I did take it out on one of my staff members and I owned that and apologized to her. And then a month later, I had another 3 staff resign in a week. And I cannot make this up, right? But by this point, I went, you know what? These people aren't meant to be in my life anymore. And I'm not meant to have this company anymore. I need to sell this business. This isn't what I want. And I remember I was meditating and I went up to my guides at that point and I got a slow clap. Like, hey, you finally got there. Well done. You finally got to this point where you realized why this was happening. And then the company actually sold quite quickly after that, because I was at the point where I was like, hey, I'm either going to sell it and earn some money or I'm going to just shut the business down, because I realized at that point that it was not serving me. And fortunately, I did get to sell it. So that was really nice. And then a whole heap of other things. But the point was that I had to go through that and had to go through those different levels to see. And each time I experienced it, yes, it was the same event that was happening, but it was a different emotion every time. And it was almost like I had to keep peeling away those layers so that I could let that deeper level of healing come out. And so that I could see that actually this isn't my purpose. I'm not meant to do this anymore. Yes, I'm meant to have a business and run my own business, but it's not in this field and it's not doing this. And I knew in my heart it wasn't fulfilling, it wasn't helping me. So then when I have other people come to me who are going through this different layers, because it's so nice, I can stand on the outside and go, hey, this is what's happening for you. How do you think, what is it being reflected back? And that is when you can see those shifts. And that's why sometimes it's so beautiful to have people around you that support you, that can help you through those emotional periods. They might not necessarily see exactly what's happening for you, but at the same time, Sometimes it's nice to be able to voice it out and get it out rather than take it out on a staff member or take it out on someone in your family. And especially we're talking about shadows and silver linings. I could see the silver lining going through that process of, okay, that was the universe's way of getting me to realize my company had to break down so I could get out. Because whilst it was making a lot of money and really sustainable, it was really hard to let it go. Whereas when it started to break down at that level, then I'm like, oh, if I don't leave now, then it's just going to keep breaking down. And it's not going to be at a point where I can get out that's on my terms as well. So that's why I was saying earlier, now when those triggers come up or something happens, I run towards them because I don't want to go through that again. So that's my experience with that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I love how each of you actually brought in that personal experience, because that really is how we actually get to shift, is by being able to recognize what is it in these experiences that allowed us to be able to move through, because each and every one of us around this table have had challenges that, and we will continue to have challenges. There's nobody who's not gonna who's gonna wake up one morning and say, okay, I'm done. And but it's just that importance of being able to like just really understanding where it is that we have been, so that we know where it is that we are going. And it makes a huge difference. And sometimes we don't know where we're going. And so like Anick, who's floundering around between places and trying to figure out where she's going and where she's going to land, she knows that she's going to land, and she knows that she can trust that, as frustrating as it is and how sad it is at times, it's still something that we're actually going to be able to get through and to get into that next level. And we have about 8 minutes left in the discussion, and I love the discussions. I love how we were able to go through this. And I'm going to start with you, Anick. I'm going to ask for something that's not even on our list of, so how is it that, like, so what is it that what are your takeaways that you can actually share with others? What do you think is the most important for somebody who's listening to know about this conversation about the shadows and silver linings?
I guess on a transformational path, it's inevitable to face your shadows. It's to be in your power as a creatrix, as a sovereign being, as a leader, really creating a life and a business that juices you up, that reflects your soul. You have no choice for that one. You've got to meet, you've got to face, you've got to embrace, you've got to know, recognize your dysfunctions, your people pleaser, your perfectionist, your prostitute, your procrastinator. You have to meet your shadows. You've got to be aware of who's running the show. Because your ego is not gonna die until your body you go into your grave. Your ego is always there, and these patterns, they've been set from a very young age. So they're there. You have to face the music. You have to go to the discomfort. You have to forgive yourself, not on a washy-washy way, but to open your heart, really open your heart. Like, sometimes life's going to send you these challenges to crack you open, to really welcome yourself, whole of you. Yeah, I guess it's inevitable. You can't sugar cake, you can't put the icing on the cake if you don't have mask and hide, pretend there's a cake underneath when there's not, you know what I mean? You have to, yeah, you have to chop the wood and create the path for your people to walk the path. You chose it. You chose to be a spiritual leader. You chose it. I chose it. Sometimes I wonder if I was really stoned when I made that choice. I must have been really drunk or really stoned when I made that choice.
You are excellent at what you do. Absolutely excellent. What about you, Tamar?
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Anick on that, and I will just so I'll share something else that I find is the self-love through it. It's really honor yourself. What does your body need? What do you need as you travel through this? Develop the tools. Find those things that work for you and use them. Whenever these things come up, use them to guide you through that. And again, I'll go back to looking for the silver lining in that, like finding that silver lining in the process of the transformation, of that dark night of the soul, of the shadows, whatever that is for you at that moment, and find that silver lining, because that is going to help you really move through it on a much more grounded and embodied place. Because when we find that silver lining, it's easier. It is. It's easier to travel through the shadows and know why you're doing it and really gain your power in that moment. Really find that sovereignty and that power. So I'll make it short, but that is my takeaway. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks, Tamar. Skye, what about you?
I think Catherine and Anick and Tamara all said it really perfectly, is that don't run, surrender. The more you try and resist and try and run away from these things, the more that they're going to follow you. And the more that they follow you, the harder it is, because then they start piling up. So it's allowing yourself to just, be in the here and now and experience whatever it is that you're experiencing so you can let it go and integrate it is going to allow you to find that peace a lot quicker. I think the more that you try and run away from it and suppress it, the harder the bounce back is.
And it really is. Thanks for that, Skye. And Catherine, what about you?
Yeah, I guess it's once I think Tamar touched upon that, once you have the knowledge of what you need to do, you need to apply it and let it become wisdom, because it's all good. You get this information and these things cross your path, or the universe gives you signs. But if you don't actually take action and do anything with it, what's the point? And the thing is with the universe, the more you ignore things, the more it's just going to keep turning up the dial to you actually pay attention to it. And like Skye touched upon, why do you want to wait till it gets so big that it's just going to explode? And I feel that's the biggest thing, is that when you're a spiritual leader or whatever field you choose to live your life in, whether it's being a mum or being a healer or being whatever it is, you need to lead by example. You need to actually embrace all the things that you're teaching and embrace the things that you are sharing. And when you get new knowledge come across your way, see how you can apply that to your life so that you can have the wisdom. And if it is something you need to do to embrace your shadows, run into it with expectations. And if it's fear that's coming up for you, the fear is only there because we don't know what's on the other side. So allow that fear to embrace you and become an ignition so that you can keep moving forward in your life and have this courage. And courage isn't something that we're born with. We have to learn to be courageous. And that's the biggest thing when you are facing this shadow work. It's you have been courageous enough to even get to that point where you're like, I am ready to work with this now and I am ready to embrace it. If you are listening and you're like, but how do I do that? Trust yourself, be curious and ask. Actually ask and then look for signs. Hey, can you send me someone to help me work through this, please? I want to shift it. And then be open and look. Don't just go, oh, they'll just land in front of me. Sometimes they, don't get me wrong, sometimes you'll just bump into them like in the hairdressing salon or whatever. It might be that you need to have that conversation. But at the same time, then look for the answers as well. I know for me, I really was thinking, oh, I really need a naturopath. And then this naturopath's name kept getting thrown across my Facebook feed like many years ago. And he ended up being the perfect person for me and connected me with my spiritual mentor and everything like that. And this is when you're looking for ways to enhance your life and face these shadows. You don't have to do it alone, and also ask for support and then look for the answers and take action on it. If you ask and then that person's name appears in front of you or shows up or pops up on your feed, actually then click and interact with it rather than just sitting there and not do anything, because then you're not actually paying attention to what's being put there to guide you to where you need to go.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, ladies. That was like, that is just an amazing way of being able to have that perspective, right? So we all have these things that come and go in our lives. We have all of our ups and downs. And so it's just really important for us to be able to remember what it is that's happening. And so, as I was sharing before we came on, is that the propane went out this morning. There was like no propane, and then the water was frozen, and so I could have just got all like crappy about it, and it's like, hey, so what am I going to do about it? We're going to go pick out some more propane. We're going to get the propane, and we're going to get the water line plugged in, so that way there we actually have water that's not going to freeze. And but when I shared that earlier, it was, but I've got heated blankets, so I was nice and toasty warm. I was under the covers with a nice toasty warm, and the dog was up there with me, and I was doing my work, and so we can cry over spilt milk, but the milk's still going to be there unless we clean it up, right? So we still need to do the things that we need to do in order for us to be able to move through that. But there's always something that we can actually be grateful for in that particular moment. Maybe not in that exact moment, but afterwards. It's like the experience that we had, or whatever it is. Like, it could be something as simple as, I got to be able to breathe today, right? So just being able to like just stand outside and take a couple of deep breaths, and I was able to do that today. And maybe it's something as simple as that, but there is always something that we can actually just be grateful for and thankful for, and be able to help us get through that. And earlier, and I don't remember who it was, whether it was Anick or someone else, but we talked, that somebody had said something about that it's not just about and everything's great, and like, we need to have the good and the bad, and being able to have these things happen. For those of you who are catching this on the replay, remember that somewhere around wherever it is that you're listening to this, probably below is some links to be able to connect with any of the beautiful ladies that are on this panel. And again, I want to thank you guys for having these conversations and sharing from your heart. And went a little bit off script because you guys went a little bit in, not in a bad way, but I think that was just very powerful messages that you guys were able to share. So thank you so much, everyone. And I'm going to turn it over to Sophia.
And thank you, Rollie, or Gigato Miguenque, for facilitating another amazing panel discussion. I've been sitting here listening to everyone's experiences. Oh my God, I just want to honor you all, seriously honor everyone here. For you, Rollie, and Skye, and Catherine, and Tamar, and Anick. You've had some amazing journeys. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on how you've overcome all these incredible experiences. And of course, for everyone who is watching, of course, click on the links. These women have taken out over an hour of their time to share their wisdom, so connect with them, follow up. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below, and we will get back to you on that. While you're there, come and join us for Sacred You. It's very simple. The link's there, sacredyou.love. Join us for free by putting a /join free. Come and check out our village, everything else we have to offer. And on that note, we're going to say thank you. We've already lost Skye, and just thank you for everyone for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia.
Thank you.